Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be showing my method of how to make a slope aspect map in QGIS. So first of all, we're starting off with our DEM and just select it, just like so, and go to Raster, Analysis, Aspect. Then click Run and wait for it to run. Click close, and now you have your aspect map. Now to create the slope map is very similar. Just again select on your DEM, do raster, analysis, slope, and again click run. And now we have our slope map. Now, to create our slope aspect map, it's really quite simple. We just need to change the symbology of each of the layers. So, first I'm going to change the symbology of this aspect layer. So, I'm just going to toggle the visibility of the slope layer and the DEM for now. Now, with our aspect layer, right-click on it and go to Properties. Make sure you're in the Symbology tab over here. Next, set the render type from single band gray to single band pseudo color. Then set this color ramp over here to a different one. So click on the little arrow next to the colorful color ramp and click on Turbo. Then at the bottom here, click Classify. This just makes sure that we have all of the colors represented in the gradient, because otherwise it just doesn't work properly. Now we want to create a rainbow color out of this to show aspect. So we're going to do Create New Color Ramp, set the color ramp type to gradient, click OK. Now to make the rainbow, what we're going to do is select on this color on the left and change it to FF0000. So this is the hex code over here, and this corresponds to the color red. Now on the other side of this color spectrum or gradient, set the color's hex code to FF0001. Now, this color should look almost identical, because it is, but the way we make a rainbow color gradient out of this is changing this thing over here from RGB to HSV, and boom, now we have our rainbow. Now, make sure this is set to counterclockwise and not clockwise, because when it's set to clockwise, it just makes that same constant red gradient, which is not what we want. We want the rainbow, so set it to counterclockwise. Then click OK. And now we have our rainbow gradient. Now click OK again. And boom, now we have hue representing aspect. Okay, so now that we have hue representing aspect, now to create the slope visualization, toggle slope on and select slope, right click on it and click on properties. Make sure again that you're in the Symbology tab and switch the render type to single band pseudo color again, and click on this arrow next to the gradient like we did for the aspect, and do Create New Color Ramp. Again, do gradient. Okay. And the color on the left, set it to, down here in the hex code, set it to 80, 80, 80. This creates average gray. Set the color on the right side of the gradient, again, to 80, 80, 80. Just like so. Yeah, this hue parameter doesn't really matter because it's average gray, but I don't know, I think it just looks nicer when it's at 0 degrees. But the parameter here that matters the most is opacity. So make sure to set the opacity to 0% down here. This means that minimal slopes will have a completely opaque average gray, while steep slopes will have a transparent average gray, which means that it'll just be showing the aspect. So in this visualization, hue corresponds to aspect and saturation corresponds to slope. Now, click OK and click Classify. And these min-max values, you could set them to your preferences. I prefer to set the max to 90 degrees in this case, because that way 100% saturation corresponds to a completely vertical slope, which kind of just makes the most sense to me. And now just go ahead and click OK. And boom, now we have our slope aspect map. So as I said, hue corresponds to aspect in this map, and saturation corresponds to slope. So very flat slopes, like the surface of the lake itself, because in this case, I'm using Crater Lake as the example DEM here. The surface of the lake is perfectly flat, right? Because it's the water. And as you can see, it's a perfectly just flat gray because it has a slope of 0. But the mountains over here, like for example this mountain, looks colorful because it has some steep slopes, as well as this volcano here, Wizard Island, also has steep slopes, so its colors look more saturated, and so we can see the whole rainbow going around this cone. Yeah, to zoom back out, just clicking this. Now, a third thing that I like to add to this map, which I've never seen anybody else do before, but I kind of just came up with myself, is adding elevation. So now this won't only be a slope aspect map. I'm gonna make this a slope aspect elevation map. And the way I'm going to do that is by putting the DEM on top. So make sure that the DEM is this top layer, just like so, and toggle it on. So as you can see, we're back to this gray gradient DEM, and right click on it, click on properties, and again make sure you're in Symbology and set your render type to single band pseudo color. Over here, create a new color ramp again and do gradient. Set this bottom color here to 40 40 40. So this is a 25% lightness of gray. And this top color, I'm going to set it to C0 C0 C0, again in its hex code. And this will represent a 75% light gray. Now click OK and classify. And here's where it's different. Set the blending mode down here in layer rendering. Set the blending mode to hard light. And click OK. And boom, now we can see that lower areas look slightly darker than higher areas. So this mountain that's over here looks a little lighter than this valley down here, and that's because of its elevation. And if we zoom in on this cliff over here, we can kind of see how the top of this cliff looks lighter than the bottom of this cliff. which looks darker. I just came up with this addition to a slope aspect map because I think it makes the slopes look more dramatic in 3D. However, it does sort of reduce the overall saturation of the colors in like really high areas and really low areas. So this may not always match the aesthetic that you're going for. But in this case, I really like how it looks like. And that is how to make a slope aspect elevation map in QGIS. But again, if you don't want to add this third elevation thing, which I've never seen any cartographers do before, you can just turn off this layer, and now you just have a regular slope aspect map, which is more widely used. So thank you for watching this video tutorial, and I hope you learned a thing or two about terrain representation or QGIS from this video. Bye!